Good evening, everyone! All of the big Summer Game Fest events have wrapped up, and what better way to recap it all than with a top 10 list that no one will agree with? How about two lists? One for AAA games and one for indie. Let's get started with the number 10 AAA reveal. So it was kind of hard to come up with a number 10 as the internet's resident AAA hater, and the reason I picked Don't Nod's Aphelion is because it reminded me a lot of a game I just played in May, Steel Seed. But unlike that game, Don't Nod's got the budget and design chops to keep the experience varied and interesting. If this is by the Jusant team like I assume, then I expect to see some good climbing in addition to the jumping and sliding. The main reason that I took an interest in Resonance: A Plague Tale Legacy was not brand recognition or even the fact that it's a prequel, but the heavier emphasis on action over stealth. Now I like stealth games, but I don't think stealth meshes super well with linear narrative experiences, as it just doesn't give you enough creative freedom. Also, from screenshots, Resonance also kinda looks Tomb Raider-y, and if this is a linear game, tomb raiding is a good fit. I mean, the reboot trilogy was okay, melodramatic presentation of Lara aside, but the open world didn't add much to it, and I never liked the enemy camps. While we knew a little about Silent Hill F in past events, the State of Play trailer gave us the first major look at the gameplay and in-game cutscenes. Even though I'm a fan of the Silent Hill series, the reason why this one doesn't rank higher is because I didn't find the enemy design to be super inspiring, and I also found that the trailer was very combat-focused, which was kind of strange. Now, that was how Bloober's Silent Hill 2 remake was marketed at first as well, so I can't judge it based off of one trailer, but it's got me in a wait-and-see mood. Number 8 kicked off the State of Play with the revival of a puzzle franchise we haven't seen in quite a while, Lumines. The original Lumines was a PlayStation portable staple, and Tetsuya Mizuguchi has kept evolving his trademark style more and more with the beloved Tetris effect. I'm excited to see that glow-up given to the game that Tetris inspired back in 2004. Fuck, it's been 21 years. Shut up, you're the old one, not me. Double Fine's next game was an easy entry on this list, as Psychonauts 2 was one of the very few games to get a 90+ score from me this decade. It looks quirky as all get out and quite gorgeous. Now this one isn't from Tim Schafer, but Lee Petty, who was the design lead on Stacking and Headlander, and I actually liked both of those games quite a bit. It's true that Double Fine's output was highly erratic between Psychonauts 1 and 2, but I'm hoping they will stay on track and put out another artsy gem in 2026. The original Nioh was one of my favorite Souls-likes, and it's good to see Tecmo and Team Ninja continuing to work on this series. Nioh 3 looks beautiful, and the action looks even faster, and the traversal more interesting. Yeah, the loot sucks. It sucks every time, but I've given up hoping that they'd improve that. The main thing I care about is the enemy and level design. I've seen a number of Souls-likes in these events, like Mortal Shell 2, Code Vein 2, but Nioh 3 is the one that I'm most excited for. Granted, there'll be a part of me that prefers Onimusha as a static camera action game with pre-rendered environments, because I always thought that set it apart in a unique way. But I can't deny how good the new Onimusha Way of the Sword looked. The only question I have about it is what the structure is going to be like. The Steam page says it is stage-based, so I guess it won't be interconnected? Maybe they're taking it in a more Nioh-style direction? Summer Game Fest and E3 trailers are notorious for only showing you small vertical slices, so I'll just need to see more. So we don't really know what the gameplay is going to be like in Resident Evil 9, whether it will be first person or third person, but I'm glad they've gotten away from the previous protagonist, and the setting is definitely interesting, returning to Raccoon City after the explosion, giving it a post-apocalyptic feeling. With the city as the setting, are they going to break this open into a wide world, or will it retain that tight, smaller but condensed world design that the franchise is generally known for? I wouldn't normally put something without gameplay this high up, but with Resident Evil 7 and 8 both being solid, I can lend my trust to this without a lot of reservation. Stranger Than Heaven was first shown via a teaser trailer at the Game Awards, but this week we got to see more of the setting and gameplay. Set in two different eras of historical Japan, you play as Detective Mako Daito investigating a mystery, getting into street fights, and, well, the usual soap opera storytelling that you expect from RGG Studio. I get the impression that this game is a way for the Judgment franchise to to continue without the blacklisted star actor, though the fact that it has a large chronology to it is interesting. This was originally called Project Century, so will we have gameplay in the 2010s as well? As always, these trailers leave us with more questions than answers. But the game that provided the most in-depth look at story and gameplay, and my number one, was not The Outer Worlds 2, screw that game. I'm talking about In Exile's Clockwork Revolution. Microsoft has two ImSim RPGs competing with each other, and I'm sorry, but Outer Worlds' presentation is just too cartoonishly ham-handed. Not that Clockwork Revolution doesn't also have some cringeworthy humor, but it feels like a more authentic setting, or at least way less disingenuous than Obsidian's game. They'll do a lot of the same things, shoot, stealth, diplomacy, but there's also a time travel component to the game where you can alter the history of the city, and you have the ability to use your time powers on enemies, so we're talking Dishonored meets Raven's Singularity, which some people might call that a deep cut, but Singularity slapped and absolutely deserved better. I don't really care too much about AAA games outside of Nintendo's, so it takes a lot for me to actually anticipate a Western AAA game. Now, there's a boycott of Microsoft going on, but even if there wasn't, I'm like crazy poor, so my interest in these games is almost academic, but I'll be curious to see if Clockwork Revolution lands on Game of the Year lists in 2026. If you disagree with any of that list, or the placement, just keep in mind that I am much more of an indie game fan, so stuff like Black Ops 7 or Gears of War Remake goes in one ear and out the other. I guess I'm surprised that Judas and Perfect Dark didn't show up this year, but I feel like those games have been in development hell for a long time, so I'm not that surprised. Getting back to indie games though, there were enough wonderful surprises that I managed to have some honorable mentions before getting into my top 10. For starters, we've got Scott Pilgrim EX, the sequel to the retro brawler that put tribute games on the map over a decade ago, and I'm curious to see if it follows the Netflix show's chronology. Then there's Sword of the Sea, another incredibly artsy game from Giant Squid that mashes all of their past games together while also utilizing skateboarding and snowboarding style traversal. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound looks incredibly good, and will hopefully step up where games like The Messenger fell short. Mandrake takes Failbetter's knack for prose and applies it to the life sim genre, quite a different game from what you usually see from them. Consumi has been shown elsewhere, but man, I can see why it won the IGF Grand Prize. And this is stupid, but Leaf Blower Simulator? Yeah, I'm probably gonna play Leaf Blower Simulator. I'm pathetic. Let's get to the top 10. The first Escape Academy was a nice little surprise, providing the kind of polish and presentation that a lot of smaller escape room games couldn't provide at the time. The only problem was that the much deeper Escape Simulator ate its lunch with all of its many content updates and massive community support. But they've managed to win me back to the Academy by promising a non-linear approach to the game inspired by Animal Well, and that kind of secret hunting and game-wide puzzle solving is a great fit for escape room design. I assume there will still be self-contained escape rooms because otherwise the backtracking might start to get tedious, but the campus size doesn't seem that huge, so it might not be that big of a deal. This is a bit of a cheat, as we've known about Mina the Hollower for some time, but not only did we get a release date of Halloween, but a demo went live for Steam Next Fest. Yeah, this is top-tier Yacht Club game design and absolutely amazing music from Jake Kaufman, once again crushing it on the multi-chip hybrid synthesis. Last year's Master Key is going to be hard to top as the best indie Zelda-like, but if anyone's going to do it, it's Yacht Club and Mina the Hollower. I don't think anyone was expecting a 3D platformer based on Super Meat Boy, and the level design looks like it nails the execution. I've never really thought of rage platforming fitting with 3D unless you count unconventional games like Beton Brutal, but seeing it in motion, it seems like it fits like a glove. The real tricky part is going to be whether levels have checkpoints or not, and if not, how long the levels will be. The first two Meat Boy games had very short levels, so checkpoints never made sense, but if these levels are, say, 5 minutes long and you gotta start over every time, that could stop being fun in a hurry. But I'll always play any new 3D platformer, and I'll certainly play this one as well. Take Hitman and replace weapons with photography and you've got Snap and Grab, the latest game from No Goblin, who once gave us the exceptionally silly Roundabout. You'll be taking pictures of all the valuable items, as well as potential threats and useful environmental hazards, and then directing your team on how to pull the heist off. The level design seems wide and free, just like the Hitman games, though aside from a detective who's your rival, I'm not sure if you'll have to do any disguising or hiding. It didn't seem like it anyway. As you're gonna see later on this list, I love photography games, and the Snap and Grab trailer was an instant mood lifter after watching Jeff Keighley's largely dull and drab keynote event. By far, the weirdest reveal at any of the major events was There Are No Ghosts at the Grand, a mix of renovation and cleaning gameplay with mystery hunting and cosmic horror. And also musicals? Like, they had characters singing and dancing to Rocksteady and ska, and it was pretty sick. Sorry, I live in my truth. Traditional ska kicks ass. Listen to Hepcat's Right on Time, it's a great album. Anyway, spookiness, restoring decrepit buildings, and reviving a town, that's all right up my alley, and it was definitely my favorite new IP to be shown at the big events. At number 5, we've got an isometric cinematic stealth game, this one from Scandinavia called Eriksholm The Stolen Dream. Eriksholm was shown a little bit at a previous event, I forget which, but we got to see a lot more gameplay this time and a release date of July 15th. As I said with Plague Tale, it's hard to trust a more linear stealth game nailing the design, but with multiple characters that have their own abilities and the bird's eye angle, I'm definitely seeing some Shadow Tactics influence, and that game was quite good at how it designed its levels. So it might be a wait and see, but it's a hopeful wait and see. We've known that Bloodstained was eventually going to return with a sequel, we just didn't know when, because they kept updating the original game, so it was hard to tell when the drip feed was going to stop and production on the next game would begin. As the trailer started, I thought, wait, is this a new Castlevania? And then I was like, of course, Igavania, Bloodstained, obviously. I really enjoyed the first Bloodstained, but I'll admit there were aspects to it that were a little sloppy, and its art direction was unrefined. I'm hoping this can be the same kind of glow up that Castlevania got when we went from Circle of the Moon to Harmony of Dissonance. Juicebox Games has mostly developed banger after banger, from Guacamelee to Severed to Nobody Saves the World. I didn't love the dungeon design of Nobody Saves the World because it was procedurally generated, but I love pretty much everything else, so Blighted has me delighted. We've now got a handcrafted, interconnected Metroidvania map with the crunchy combat that Juicebox is known for. Despite how successful Tunic and Death's Door have been, we really haven't had another isometric Zelda-like since. It's almost always been roguelike, so I am extremely excited for this one. The dynamic difficulty system should allow for people of multiple skill levels to get into the game, and I'm curious to see how the blight mechanic warps the terrain. The first TOEM was one of my favorite indie games of 2021, though it was a little limited in its quest variety. As I said before, photography is just an awesome gameplay mechanic, and the stamp system is a cool sort of Power Story adjacent collectible. TOEM 2 got a teaser back in December, but this is our first look at the sequel, and it looks absolutely great. The addition of new movement skills will improve exploration and provide that extra bit of variety the last game lacked, and the fusion of 2D and 3D elements should invite more exciting photographs while still fitting the same art style. If you haven't played the first game, you should give it a look, it's a delightful little game. But that was merely a glimpse, and this sequel might be the fully realized vision. My number one though, without a doubt, the most interesting game, AAA or indie, was the new game by the Untitled Goose Game developer. Big Walk positions itself as a co-op exploration experience that sits somewhere in between walking simulators and open-world non-linear puzzle games like The Witness. I don't think the puzzles are a massive emphasis, but they're there, and they require you to cooperate with your friends using just your voice and simple gestures. We've seen over the past couple of years a lot of co-op focused friendship games like Lethal Company, Phasmophobia, Content Warning, and recently Repo. And obviously Monsters and Traps are a part of the appeal of those games, but taking that kind of shared experience and making it far more relaxed and sandboxy could be what gets me finally interested in a multiplayer game for the first time since, I don't know, TF2? For me, that game was as much a game of competition as it was a game for hanging out with friends and just goofing around. We'd play King of the Hill Badlands just as much as we'd chill out and DM Mario Kart 2, and I could see myself and my friends having a great relaxing time in this game in much the same way. I know that tastes differ, and everyone's gonna have their own highly anticipated indie game, but for me personally, this has me willing to break out the headset and getting a group together, which I haven't done in almost a decade. Now, top 10 lists exist for people to argue about and to claim games got robbed or snubbed, so I legitimately want to know, what got you the most excited about the past week's events? Whether it's Xbox, Sony, Wholesome Direct, PC Gaming Show, I'm sure you found something that tickled your fancy. Let me know in the comments below. Now, this was a surprise off-the-cuff video that I put together quickly because I watched just about every one of these events, so I just had to talk about what interested me. We've also got Steam Next Fest this week, and I might put out a video later this week talking about the coolest demos. Then I'll have a video about Locomoto out next week, and a review of K-pop Demon Hunters by the end of the month. Special shout out to my indie darlings on Patreon, Rob Scott, Tyler McBride, Thumpus, Nick Shalark, Tony Domenico, and Game Trekker. If you like this video, like, subscribe, and check out the link to the Patreon in the video description. Thank you all for watching, and until next time, you'll find me in another castle.